Hey there, Terror Talk fans. Are you looking for a new way to let your voice be heard? If so, check out our friends at Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for creating your very own podcast. They offer editing tools to create your podcast, which include your audio, listener audio, unique transitions, and custom advertisements. In addition, they'll also help you distribute your podcast to other listener sources, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. With this unique app, you also have the chance to get paid for your podcast by simply placing ads for various sponsors in your videos. Best part of it all? It is 100% free. Anchor does all the work for you and makes podcasting as simple as turning on a light. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM. Whether you're new to podcasting, doing it as a hobby, or hosting a professional show, Anchor is the place for you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Terror Talks. I'm your host, Jeremy, and we are here today on episode 27, where we are talking about Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood's full event announcement. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we officially have a full event announcement from Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios Orlando. If you listen to our last couple episodes, I believe it was episodes 23 and 22 and 23, we talked about Universal Studios Orlando's full event announcement. So now we're going to give you all the scoop on Universal Studios Hollywood's full announcement. Not quite as much information to cover, but still a lot of exciting stuff happening out there on the West Coast. So we're just going to dive right in and get down to it. On Tuesday, August 17th, Universal Studios Hollywood dropped the full announcements for their HHN30 event. This announcement came 4 days after Universal Studios Orlando released their full event announcement. Universal Hollywood boasted 8 houses for the 2021 event, one of them being the return of the Terror Tram. The recent houses that had been announced up until this point were The Haunting of Hill House, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, The Exorcist, and The Curse of Pandora's Box. Today, they released the final 3 houses to be featured at the event, as well as 3 Scarezones and a returning show. So we're just going to dive right in. Let's start off with the returning show. Jabbawokeez. Jabbawokeez returns to Halloween Horror Nights with their unique mix of dance, special effects, music, and humor. So this is a very interesting looking show to me. This is obviously one I've never experienced because I haven't experienced anything at HHN Hollywood, because I've never been fortunate enough to make it out there, but I would one day like to. But I was able to go online and watch a clip of the Jabbawokeez and just kind of see what this whole thing is about. And to be completely honest, it's not really my thing. I'm not a big dance person, at least not this type of dancing we're seeing. This is very hip-hop, break-dancing kind of thing. It's very interesting. That's what I can say about it. But for me, it's not really my cup of tea. It's not something that I would, go out of my way to see. Like if I was at HHN Hollywood and I knew the show was going on, I would probably make a beeline for every single house to avoid the crowds that would soon come out of that show and go to the houses. So I would take advantage of that show by going to visit other houses around the event. I would not really spend any time going to experience it. Now, that being said, I could just be looking at this through the wrong lens here. It might not be that bad of a show. It might not be, something that I should view negatively. But for me, it's just not something that I really care to experience. That being said, if you've been to this event and you've seen the Jabbawokeez perform, feel free to comment down below and just let us know what your experience with that was. Let us know what the viewing is like of this show, if it is worth actually going and checking out. Maybe we are wrong in it. Maybe it's something that we need to give a chance to. Maybe one day we'll make it out there for HHN Hollywood and get that chance. But feel free to let us know. Up next, we have our 3 scare zones. There's one I'm going to save for last because I think it's the most anticipated one. But I'm going to start with this one, Demon City. This Manhattan neighborhood has gone to hell. A diabolical new nightclub, Inferno, has opened with demonic clientele straight from the underworld. Okay, so Demon City. So right off the bat, I'm thinking a lot of red lighting packages, a lot of devil-esque kind of people running around because it's called Demon City. But one thing that intrigues me is it mentions a nightclub called Inferno, and it mentions the underworld. So immediately my brain shoots straight over to Beetlejuice. And as we know, Beetlejuice was supposed to be part of the HHN30 event over there in Hollywood. It is happening in Orlando. It's not happening in Hollywood. I'm not really sure why, but there is a reason for that. But that being said, I'm wondering if this scare zone is kind of their way around that whole IP thing. Maybe they're able to use this idea that was featured in Beetlejuice of the really weird demon strip club kind of thing. Maybe that's what we are seeing here, is we're getting to experience that in some sense. But to me, it seems very interesting, very reminiscent of Beetlejuice and that whole scene from the movie. So I'm very curious to see if that's what we're getting, but maybe it has nothing to do with that. I really don't know, but we will find out, I'm sure. Up next, we have Chainsaw Rangers. Get ready to howl, roar, and bellow with fear as you're hounded by a bloodthirsty band of chainsaw-wielding maniacs wearing grotesque animal masks. So this is definitely an area of the park that I would be very creeped out by, because those animal masks are just creepy. They're very, very creepy. I dated a girl who felt the same way at one point too. She used to tell me those animal masks were just weird, and she did not like them. It is such a weird thing, to see these people wearing like this rabbit mask with the messed up teeth and this blood splatter. It's just very, very evil looking. But that's what this scare zone seems to be shaping up to be. I imagine we're going to see a lot of people wearing those. Maybe we'll see those creepy doll type masks. Very Purge reminiscent is what I'm seeing here. That's what I'm getting the vibe of from this scare zone. And of course, chainsaws are always a big part of HHN. They've always have been, no matter what part of the world you're in. You go to a Halloween event in general, you're going to get chainsaws at some point. And HHN is absolutely not an exception to that rule. You are going to get chainsaws, and they have a lot of them. So this is pretty typical scare zone we're getting, with a bunch of people running around with chainsaws. So finally, we have what I think is probably the biggest scare zone, and one of the ones that I personally would be most excited about. SILVERSCREAM Queenz. The Bride of Frankenstein is bringing back classic female movie monsters from the grave to strike fear into the hearts of men. Sinister sisters unite. So this scare zone was actually released at the Awaken the Spirits event by Midsummer Scream over in California. We actually have a good friend of ours who got to attend the event. He hosts a podcast over there called the Theme Park Duo Podcast. So be sure to go check that out and give him some love when you get a chance. But this is a very, very neat looking scare zone, and one I would be very excited to get to experience. This is one I actually wouldn't mind having over in Orlando, because what we're hearing is this scare zone is going to be sort of attached to the Bride of Frankenstein Lives house. And so you'll go through the Bride of Frankenstein Lives, and it will dump you right onto the streets of this scare zone. And I think that's a really cool feature, because that's something that I've been seeing a lot lately with a couple of other, haunted events happening at the theme parks. So I think that's a really cool feature to have the two kind of coincide with each other and work together to create one central theme. So good on them for doing that. I really wish I could experience this scare zone and just see what they can do to kind of extend that Universal Monsters Bride catalog that they have. Because they do have a vast catalog of Universal Monsters, and in turn they each have their specified brides. So I'm very curious to see what they can do to play with that, because as far as I know, the Bride of Frankenstein Lives house only features the Bride of Frankenstein, and I believe the Bride of Dracula as well. Those are the only two I know of for sure. But who knows? Maybe the Hollywood version will vary in some way from the Orlando version, in that it will feature the brides of different classic horror monsters. Who knows? We will have to just wait and see. So those are our 3 scare zones for the event. Now on to the big main event, the haunted houses, the mazes. So this is going to be a fun one right here, because we have 3 that were pretty much anticipated from the get-go, but we weren't really sure what we were getting. So up until this point, we already knew we were getting the Haunting of Hill House, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the Bride of Frankenstein Lives. These 3 were going to be shared between Universal Studios Orlando and Universal Studios Hollywood. So you're getting these houses on both coasts. Additionally, in Hollywood, you're receiving The Exorcist and The Curse of Pandora's Box. Orlando will not be getting those 2 haunts, but Hollywood will. So now we have the addition of 3 more haunts. So let's start with one that was not quite, I don't think, anticipated, but we kind of saw it coming, and that is the AMC's The Walking Dead. Enter the post-apocalyptic world of AMC's The Walking Dead. Prepare to fight for survival in a fully immersive journey as you navigate through a world overrun by walkers with an insatiable appetite for the living. Follow in the footsteps of the human survivors as you battle your way through nightmarish, iconic landscapes that bring the most popular cable TV show in history to life. So this is a reoccurring house, so to speak, in that it actually became a daytime attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood. So you could actually go to the park and ride the rides and experience this every day on an average day at the park. It didn't even have to be Halloween. But they also featured this haunt at the HHN events for several years. I believe it went from 2016 to 2019. And then during 2020, the parks all closed. And then something happened where they just didn't open up this attraction. Even when the park reopened post-COVID, they didn't open up the Walking Dead attraction. In fact, they kind of sealed it off to where you couldn't get to it anymore. So that's kind of interesting. I'm wondering why they did that. If they were just going to turn around and reintroduce it to HHN30 over there. And the only thing I can speculate on that is that maybe they went and updated it to include new things such as the Whisperers and Negan and the Saviors and all that stuff. Because before, it focused heavily on the earlier parts of the series, so the prison and the governor and all of that. So maybe now we've shifted gears a little bit and they're throwing some of the elements of the more recent seasons in there. That is the only thing I can speculate, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. We'll only have to wait and find out. But I think this is going to be a very interesting haunt. This is one I definitely wish I could go through just to experience it, because I love The Walking Dead. Still keeping up with it to this day. I'm seeing it through to the very end. But I think this is going to be a really cool maze. And if my speculation is correct, and they are going back and retweaking some things and basically updating it to the current seasons of the show, then it could be really, really cool. We could see some really cool stuff with that. So that's AMC's The Walking Dead. Up next, we have... This is the haunted house that gave us the most trouble this year in terms of speculation, because it has been rumored to be everything but what we finally got. So, first, this is the Waterworld Stunt Show Q house. And at one point, it was Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. At one point, I think it might have been Creepshow. At one point, it was Halloween Kills. And then, finally, at the very end there, it became Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And that was the official announcement we were given, is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers is returning to HHN 2021. Evil has returned. Michael Myers has escaped, and he's on his way back to Haddonfield, spreading blood and mayhem in his wake. Your only hope is Dr. Loomis, Myers' fire-scarred former psychiatrist. But will he get there before it's too late? It's clear that this time, Michael Myers is unstoppable. So this house is returning from HHN 2018. This was actually featured both here in Hollywood and in Orlando. So you're getting it in both parks at some point. But I guess Orlando did not have to go back and bring back any haunts from years past. They were able to just go forth with all new ones, whereas Hollywood, I think they might have had to bite the bullet a little bit and reuse some things. Because the really interesting part of this is that this haunt is actually in the same place that it was back in 2018 as well. So everything is the same. It's in the Waterworld Stunt Show. It's in it's the Halloween 4 maze. Everything about it is the same. You're going through the same facade you went through in Halloween 4. That is the big gas station. So everything about it appears to be the same here. So I'm wondering, is Universal going to even try to do something to vary it from its original incarnation? Or are they just going to run with it as it is and make that the thing? You know, that's the question. I would personally love to experience this haunt because I never got to experience it back when it was at either coast. But not only that, I love the Halloween film series. I know some people say they got drug on for too long and got really skewed with, but I personally have always loved the Halloween film series, and so I think this would be a really cool haunt to get to experience for myself. So finally, we have the one that we were all waiting for, and that is the Terror Tram, and their theme for the Terror Tram this year is the ultimate purge. The Terror Tram is back. Unfortunately for you, some of the most iconic purgers from each of the terrifying Purge films have taken over and are running rampant. It's every man and woman for themselves as masked and costumed marauders are out to ambush anyone outside during Purge hours. So climb aboard the Terror Tram at your own risk, because once you get off the tram, it's no rules, no laws, no escape. So, the Terror Tram. This is a very popular attraction that HHN Hollywood has that really no other Universal Studios park can have, because Universal Studios Hollywood has that tram during the day, the studio tour tram. So this allows them to have this unique niche that other people they can't have. It's not possible. So that is kind of sad for us because we don't know when we'll get to experience the Terror Tram. This is one I really would love to. And it's clear that they are definitely going to be running with the whole theme of the Purge this year for it. Definitely it has to be from the success of the latest Purge movie, the Forever Purge, that came out. And I think a lot of people were speculating that somehow at one of the parks we would see the Purge show up this year. So I think that's a really good idea to do that, because I feel like this Purge movie that just came out was pretty successful in my opinion, because it answered the question a lot of people wanted to know, which was what happens when people decide to just ignore the sirens and keep, purging. So I think they're deciding to run with that theme of the Purge, and I think that'll actually shape up to be a really cool theme for this year's Terror Tram. So the Terror Tram was the only attraction featured at HHN 1986, but then they did not have a Halloween Horror Nights event for 6 years due to a tragedy that occurred on the tram. An actor got a little overenthusiastic in his performance and fell between the two trams, being crushed to death. And this would lead the team at Universal to come to the decision to dismiss scare actor attacks while the tram was in motion. So I'm sure that was a decision that was not made lightly, but it was definitely, if you could say, a necessary kind of thing. The tram later returned in 1992 for 1 year, and then did not return yet again until HHN 2006 for the Terror Tram, the director's cut. After 2006, the Terror Tram would return each year through 2018, but did not make an appearance at the 2019 Halloween Horror Nights event. So this is what led to the speculation of, are we going to get the Terror Tram back for this year's 2021 event? Because in 2019, we did not have the Terror Tram. It did not appear, but lucky for us, we did get an official announcement. So we do know that we are getting the Terror Tram for this year's HHN30 event, which is very fitting with it being the 30th anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights. So how can you have that without that iconic tram ride out there in Hollywood? This will not be the first time that the Purge has taken over the Terror Tram, as HHN 2015 saw the Survive the Purge theme take over. This is one of those things that I would just love to experience myself, because I just think it's so neat. It's such a unique thing to Universal Studios Hollywood, and it's so great that they can do something like that, because we don't get that over here. It's not something that we're able to enjoy and have a good time with. But at the same time, we do have a pretty good event ourselves, and I don't think I would even want to trade events, because I do love everything that we're getting in Orlando. I just wish I could somehow experience what we're getting in Hollywood as well. But it looks as if HHN30 in Hollywood is shaping up to be a pretty awesome event. The 3 Scarezones, Scream Queenz, Demon City, and Chainsaw Rangers. The one show, Jabbawokeez, that is returning, and they have a lot of great looking houses planned, some shared with Orlando and some returning from years of Halloween Horror Nights past. Those houses are The Haunting of Hill House, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Curse of Pandora's Box, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, The Exorcist, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, AMC'S The Walking Dead, and the Terror Tram, the Ultimate Purge. So this is going to be a really cool event. I definitely wish we could experience it in some form or another. Definitely there are 3 that I would love to experience out there, 3 or 4, and that is the Halloween house, the Exorcist house, Pandora's box, and the Terror Tram. And that's just because those are the only ones we're not getting over here in Orlando. So I would love to somehow get a chance to experience those. But, maybe next year we'll get to try out Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. Who knows? Maybe we can make that happen. But that is going to do it for us today on episode 27 of the Terror Talks, where we are talking about Universal Studios Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights 30 full event announcement. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to go hit that like button and leave a comment below. You can also subscribe to our channel for all of our Terror Talks content. Be sure to check out all of our listening platforms. We are on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and several others that you can find listed in the description below. You can also go follow us on our social medias. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just simply look up the Terror Talks, and there we are. Want to show just a little bit more support? Go check out our Patreon. There you can sign up to receive premium access to bonus content, merch, and special perks that only Patreon members can get. You can also check out our website at theterrortalks.wordpress.com. There you will receive updates about episodes, access to our episodes, and can also sign up for our email list. If you're looking for some other content to listen to, be sure to go check out our friends over at the Unofficial Universal Orlando Podcast, or UUOP for short. They're covering all things Universal Studios Orlando and Universal in general. If you like them, you can also check out their sister podcast, The Rush of Fear, which is covering all things HHN related. Announcements, speculation, history, hype lists, all that fun stuff. And then you can head on over to the West Coast to check out our friends at the Theme Park Duo podcast, who are covering everything to do with Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Six Flags, Universal Studios Hollywood, and all things theme park related, as well as all things Scream Park related. They're going to be covering HHN Hollywood, Knott's Scary Farm, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, Fright Fest, and so many other wonderful Halloween things that are going on out there. They actually recently did an interview with somebody who's doing a dinner theater sort of Halloween haunted thing. It was really, really neat to listen to. Then you can go check out our friends at Tales from the Crypt. They're covering all things paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, and just downright creepy. Let all of our friends out there know that the Terror Talk sent you. Finally, we want to thank you for being a loyal listener. We could not do this show without you. because you are what makes the show, and without you joining us on every episode, we would not be able to do what we do. So thank you guys so much for joining us each time we drop an episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode today as we discussed HHN30 Hollywood's full event announcement, and we hope to see you guys out there on the next one. Until next time, be safe out there, don't text and drive, and be excellent to each other. Take care, guys.